The starship Swift Claw drifted silently through the darkness of space, its predatory form barely visible against the backdrop of distant stars. Captain Bluescale stood on the bridge, his scaled hands clasped behind his back as he watched the small transport vessel through the main view screen. "Are you certain it's a human ship, First Officer?" Bluescale asked, his tail swishing with excitement. The thought of capturing a human vessel made his scales tingle. Humans were known to carry valuable cargo, and the ransoms always paid well. First Officer Red Spike checked his again, his movements nervous. "Yes, Captain, but the warning classification clearly states." "I know what it states." Bluescale cut him off. "Humans are classified as extreme danger. It's tiny, probably justified transport. Easy." The human vessel was indeed small, painted white. Its little explorer written on its side. It showed no signs of weapons or defensive systems. To the pirates, it looked like the perfect target. "Begin capture procedures," Bluescale ordered, ignoring the looks on his crew. They had successfully raided dozens of ships from various species. How dangerous could one small human vessel be? The Swift Claw's tractor beam activated, pulling the smaller ship into its docking bay. Security teams assembled, armed with stun weapons and restraints. Bluescale himself decided to join them, wanting to see their prize firsthand. When the airlock opened, the pirates were surprised to find no resistance. Instead, they discovered 6 human children, ranging from very small to slightly less small, sitting calmly in the ship's main cabin. They were wearing matching blue uniforms with different color patches on their shoulders. Well, Bluescale purred, his confidence growing. "This is even better than expected. Human offspring are worth their weight in precious metals." The youngest child, a tiny female with 2 balls in her head, smiled at him. There was something unsettling about that smile, but Bluescale dismissed the feeling. The oldest one, a male with dark hair, stood slightly in front of the others, his stance protected. "I'm Jack," the oldest boy said clearly, showing him. "We're space scouts from Earth. You should let us know." Bluescale nodded, the sound echoing through the cabin. "Space scouts. How adorable. You're now guests of the Crescent Alliance pirates. Little ones, your parents will pay handsomely for your safe return." One of the security officers leaned close to Bluescale. "Sir, these uniforms. I've heard stories about Earth's space scouts. Maybe we should." "Enough." Bluescale snapped. "They're children. Take them to the holding cells. Separate cells, mind you. We don't want them plotting anything." As the children were led away, Bluescale noticed they seemed too calm. Most young ones of any species were showing fear by now. These humans were different. The little red-haired girl was still smiling, and the oldest boy seemed to be carefully observing everything they passed. Back on the bridge, First Officer Red Spike received an urgent communication. "Captain," he called out, "we're getting a priority message from Ambassador Green of the Galactic Council." "Ignore it," Bluescale said dismissively. "We'll be right. How many credits do you think humans will pay for their help?" "But sir, the message is marked as extremely urgent. It says," "I said ignore it." Bluescale settled into his command chair, imagining the wealth that would soon be his. "Set course for our base, and make sure those children are properly secured. They may be small, but surprises." Little did Bluescale know, the surprises had already begun. In her cell, the little red-haired girl named Rose pulled a small device from her boot and began to work, her smile never leaving. The real game was about to start. Ambassador Green paced in his office at the Galactic Council station, his 3-fingered hands shaking. 6 human children, all space scouts, captured by pirates. This was worse than bad. This was potentially catastrophic. "Get me another link to the Swift Claw," he ordered his assistant, "and contact Earth's embassy immediately." The ambassador's skin, usually a calm shade of red, had turned was deadly serious. Those children you took, release them. Release them right now. You have no idea what you've done. Blue Scale, showing his pointed teeth. Or what? They're just children. Their parents will pay, and everyone will be happy. Those aren't just any children. Green's voice rose with frustration. They're Space Scouts, Earth's elite youth program. Every major space power has been warned about them. How did you miss this? On his screen, Blue Scale's expression wavered slightly. They're wearing uniforms, yes. So what? They're still just small humans. Ambassador Green slammed his hand on his desk. There is no such thing as just humans. Their children are trained from age 5 in survival skills, engineering, and more. Space Scouts are the best of the best. And you just took 6 of them. A second screen lit up, showing the face of the ambassador. Her expression was calm, but her eyes were red. Ambassador, I understand you have information about our missing children. Yes, Ambassador Helen. I'm trying to convince the pirates to release them before. It's too late, she interrupted. 3 warships have already launched. The children's tracking devices activated were taken. We know exactly where they are. Blue Scale's scales turned appealing. Tracking devices. Our scanners didn't detect any. Of course they didn't, Ambassador Helen said coolly. Those are next-generation quantum trackers, developed by last year's Space Scout Science Fair winners. Your scanners are, what, 5 years old? Ambassador Green watched as the reality of the situation started to sink into Blue Scale's expression. The pirate captain's tail had stopped moving, and his throat scales were fluttering in distress. The children's parents have already filed an official response with the Galactic Council. Ambassador Green added, do you know what humans do to protect their young? Have you studied Earth's history at all? Blue Scale swallowed. We can release them now. No ransom needed. As I said, it's too late. Ambassador Helen's voice was like ice. The warships will arrive in 6 hours. You have 1 hour to surrender. After that, we take action. But they're just sitting quietly in themselves. Blue Scale protested weakly. They even tried to escape. Ambassador Green wanted to bang his head against the wall. If they're sitting quietly, that means they're already executing their plan. Space Scouts are trained to keep calm and think strategically. Check your ship systems. Check them right now. As if on cue, the lights behind Blue Scale flickered. The pirate captain's eyes were sudden fear. I need to go check something, he said quickly, and his screen went dark. Ambassador Green turned to face the human ambassador. I'm sorry we couldn't prevent this. I've been trying to reach them since I first met. Don't worry, Ambassador. She smiled slightly. The children are in danger. They're probably having the time of their lives. It's the pirates. As if to prove her point, alarms could be heard blaring through Blue Scale's reconnecting communication link, followed by the sound of chaos and confusion. The game of cat and mouse. The pirates were just realizing they weren't the cats they thought they were. Yes, Rose sat in her cell, humming a cheerful tune as she appeared to be a simple bracelet. The guard outside shifted uncomfortably every time she smiled at him. He couldn't understand why this tiny human child seemed so happy about being captured. What are you making? The guard finally asked, his curiosity getting the better of him. Oh, just a friendship bracelet, Rose replied, her smile growing. I made lots in Space Scouts. The guard quickly shook his head and stepped back. Something about her smile made his scales itch. 3 cells down, Jack sat cross-legged on his bunk. In reality, he was mentally mapping every turn, every corner, and every security checkpoint they passed. His photographic memory, honed through years of Space Scout training, had already created a detailed layout of the ship's main. Stop that thinking. I can hear you thinking. His guard shouted, antennae twitching nervously. Jack must be something loose in the ventilation system. You know, we learn all about spacecraft maintenance in Space Scouts. I could take a look if you like. The guard frantically called for maintenance instead. Meanwhile, Alan, their computer specialist, sat quietly counting under his breath. He smiled each time the ship's lights flickered. Exactly what he predicted they would. Rose's power redirections were like scheduled. The final member of their group, Beth, was keeping them distracted with questions about alien biology. As the team's science expert, she knew exactly which questions would keep the guard talking. And not paying attention to the small device she was building from parts of it. On the bridge, things were starting to go wrong. Navigation kept showing strange errors. Equipment would work perfectly fine during failed moments. Tools seemed to vanish only to reappear in completely wrong places. Sir, the crew member called out to Blue Scale. The gravity in Section 4 just reversed itself for 10 seconds. Well, fix it. Blue Scale snapped, his confidence from earlier gone. We did, but now the food dispenser is producing something that smells like Earth coffee. First Officer Red Spike studied their systems with growing horror. Captain, these aren't random malfunctions. They're coordinated, but they're so small that our security programs aren't tricky. It's like death by 1,000 paper cuts. Blue Scale shouted, his tail thrashing. The ship's lights suddenly turned bright. Oh, I like this color. Rose's voice somehow came through the ship's communication system. It matches my friendship bracelets. How did she access the comm system? Blue Scale demanded. Unknown, sir. And we can't shut it down without shutting down life support. In her cell, Rose continued humming, adding another knot to her bracelet, which was actually a complex circuit made from threads of her uniform's conductive fabric. Jack kept meditating, memorizing every panicked crew member's path as they ran past the cell. Mary continued her power adjustments, while Tom's perfectly timed vent rattling was spreading through the entire ship's ventilation system. The children had been aboard for just 3 hours, and already the mighty pirate ship was descending into chaos. This, as Jack would say during their next scout meeting, was just the warm-up exercise. First Officer Red Spike burst into the captain's quarters, clutching a data pad with shaking hands. The room's lights flickered between purple and green, matching his current state of panic. Captain, I found something about the Space Scouts program, he gasped. You need to see this right now. Blue Scale growled, rubbing his aching head. Nothing had gone right since they captured those children. Half his crew was dealing with mysterious equipment malfunctions, and the other half was too nervous to sleep because of the themselves. What is it? He snapped. The Space Scouts. It's not just some playground. Look. Red Spike thrust the pad forward. It's Earth's elite youth training program. They take the smartest children and teach them everything about space survival. The screen showed profiles of the 6 children they captured. Blue Scale's scales turned pale as he read. Jack, age 12, team leader, perfect memory, expert in tactical planning and survival strategies, won first place in the global strategy competition. Mary, age 11, technology specialist, can build a working computer from scratch. Youngest ever hacker to be hired, legally, Earth's Defense Force to test their systems. Rose, age 8, electronics expert, created a new type of space communicator using only recycled materials. Known for always smiling while solving problems. Tom, age 9, engineering prodigy, can take apart and rebuild any machine. Once fixed a shuttle's engine while in space, using only his lunchbox materials. Beth, age 11, science specialist, knows more about alien biology than most adult scientists. Has 3 patents for new devices. Ellen, age 10, computer systems expert, developed a new ship navigation program that's now used by can talk to computers like their friends. Isn't that neat? Blue Scale managed to grab his emergency communicator. Security, check the cells immediately. About that, Jack's calm voice responded instead of security. Your security team is currently locked in the break room. Beth convinced them it was a dangerous bacteria outbreak. They're all disinfecting themselves with cleaning supplies. Beth added, I made sure they're using the safe cleaning supplies. The dangerous ones are safely locked away. Safety first, as we learned in Space Scouts. I also fixed your ship's computer, Alan said proudly. It was so disorganized. Now everything is properly labeled and color-coded. The pink and purple lights are just fine, Rose insisted. Blue Scale and Red Spike stared at each other as they floated on the ceiling. In just a few hours, 6 children took control of their entire ship's systems. The human warships will be here in 3 hours, Red Spike said quietly. What do we do? Before Blue Scale could answer, Jack's voice returned. Oh, about those warships. We might have sent them a message. They're coming a bit faster now. Something about our team getting extra engine power credits in last month's space competition. The gravity suddenly returned to normal, dropping everyone back to the floor with a thud. Sorry again, Tom called out, still adjusting the controls. Space Scout engineering badge covers basic gravity manipulation, you know. Blue Scale lay on the floor, finally understanding what Ambassador Green had tried to do. He hadn't captured 6 children. He'd captured 6 of humanity's finest young experts, and they'd been playing with his ship like it was their personal science project. The bridge of the Swift Claw was unusually quiet, except for the constant approaching noise. 3 massive human warships had just appeared at the edge of the system, their sleek black forms clearly visible. How did they get here so fast? Blue Scale whispered, his tail completely still for the first time in his life. They weren't supposed to arrive for another 2 hours. Actually, Alan's young voice came from the speakers. Earth ships have been able to go that fast for years. We just don't usually tell anyone. I helped optimize their engine cooling systems last summer's Space Scout Project Week. The largest human warship, nearly 10 times the size of the Swift Claw, moved forward. Its name was clearly visible. HS Parental Advisory. That's my ship, Rose said cheerfully through the comm system. She lets me help an engineer sometimes. Mom. The communication screen showing the stern-faced human woman in a captain's uniform. Her expression made Blue Scale step back involuntarily. This is Captain Stone of the Earth Space Force, she said calmly, too calmly. I believe that's something that belongs to us. Blue Scale tried to sound confident. Let's be reasonable. We can negotiate. Rose interrupted. You should see what I built. I rewired their entire communication system using just my uniform threads. Can I get my electronics master badge for this? Captain Stone's expression softened. Good work, Hardy. We'll discuss badges after we get there. Then her face hardened again as she looked at Blue Scale. You have exactly 1 hour to surrender. A second screen activated, showing another warship's bridge. This is Admiral Chen from the HSS Teacher's Lounge. Our weapons are locked on your engine room. I suggest you don't make any sudden moves. Dad, Jack called out. I've mapped their entire ship. Want to see my tactical analysis? Good job, son, the Admiral replied proudly. Add it to your strategy badge portfolio. The 3rd ship's captain appeared on yet another screen. ASS timeout standing by. Our boarding teams are ready. Blue Scale looked desperately at his first officer. Can we leave? Red Spike shook his head. Sir, our engines are responding. Something happened. A maintenance lockout. That was me. Tom announced proudly. Your engines really needed fixing. They're much better now, but I set them to only work with Space Scout. Safety first. The pirates watched in horror as more human ships began to the edge of the system. News had spread fast, and it seemed like the vessel in the Captain Stone's voice chattered. 55 minutes remaining. I suggest you use them wisely. Blue Scale slumped in his captain's chair, which promptly tilted sideways and dropped him on the floor. Sorry, Tom called out, still working on the artificial gravity calibration. Did you know the ship's maintenance lines haven't been updated in 3 years? That's against at least 15 safety regulations. Captain, Red Spike said, I think we should surrender. But they're just children. Blue Scale protested weakly. Sir, in the last 4 hours, they've reprogrammed our computers, rewired our communications, redesigned our engines, and turned our security systems against us. They did it all while singing scout songs and asking for merit badges. Through the view screen, they could see more human ships arriving, their weapons glowing with barely contained power. Each ship's name seemed more terrifying than the last. S detention, HS grounded, HSS you're in big trouble, young man. 45 minutes, Captain Stone announced. Oh, Rose, honey, your little sister said she was Space Scouts now too. Really? Rose's excited voice filled the bridge. That's great. Can I teach her how to rewire starships? Blue Scale finally understood. He hadn't just angered humans. He'd given their children a practical exam. And by the looks of the approach, he was about to get a very painful lesson in humor. 30 minutes until surrender deadline. The ship's computer announced in Alan's newly programmed cheerful voice. Would you like to hear a Space Scout song while you wait? Blue Scale paced on his bridge, trying to think of a way out of this mess. The human fleet had grown to 15 warships, all pointing their weapons at his small. Sir, a crew member shouted. Children cells. They're empty. What? Blue Scale spun around. Check the security cameras. We can't. They're all showing reruns of Space Scout award ceremonies. Suddenly, the bridge doors slid open. Jack walked in calmly, wearing what appeared to be a modified version of his Space Scout uniform. Behind him came the other, each carrying makeshift tools crafted from pieces of their prison cells. Hi, Rose waved cheerfully, still wearing her friendship bracelet that now glowed with power. We got bored waiting, so we thought we'd come visit. Blue Scale reached for his weapon, but found it. None of the crew's weapons would. Oh, those. Mary twirled a small device in her hand. I borrowed their power cells for my project. Hope you don't mind. How did you get out of your cells? Red Spike asked, his voice shaking. Tom grinned. The cell doors use the same power system as the gravity controls. Once we reorganized our ship's entire power grid, getting out was easy. By the way, your engineering manual is totally wrong about proper power distribution. Did you know, Beth added, adjusting what looked like a modified medical scanner, that your species' scales change color based on stress levels? It's fascinating. Can I write a paper about it for my xenobiology badge? The pirates found themselves backing away from the children. Suddenly, 6 young humans armed with homemade tools seemed more frightening than the warships outside. Mom, Rose spoke into her rebuilt communicator. We're on the bridge now. Jack says to tell you Operation Show. And tell us what we need. Good work, sweetie. Captain Stone's voice came from the speakers. Admiral Chen, they're ready for phase 2. The pirates watched in horror as their ship's systems began shutting down one by one. Screens flickered with lines of code as Alan worked on a makeshift turbo. I'm just cleaning up their computer systems before we go, he explained. Their security was so bad it was making me sad. Everything's locked down except life support and basic gravity. Mary reported devices. Though Tom's gravity fixes are working great. Thanks, Tom beamed. I used the maintenance guidelines for my engineering safety badge requirements. Jack stepped forward, looking at Blue Scale. Captain, you have 2 choices. 1, you surrender now, and we'll make sure the human fleet doesn't destroy your ship. 2, well, my dad's ship has some really big guns. You're just children, Blue Scale protested. How did you do all this? Space Scouts teaches us to be prepared. Jack shrugged. Plus, this was way easier than last month's survival training. Remember, I had to build a spaceship from scratch. Rose. That was fun. Rose nodded. But this was better. I've never required a whole pirate ship before. Through the windows, the human warships moved closer. The HSS Parental Advisory's weapons glowed bright. 20 minutes to surrender deadline. Helen's cheerful computer voice announced. Anyone like to hear about Space Scout achievements throughout history? Blue Scale looked at his crew, then at the children who had completely taken over the ship, and finally at the fleet of human warships outside. He slowly raised his hands. We surrender, he said quietly. Rose jumped up and down. Mom, they surrendered. Keep the ship. I promised to teach my little sister about it. No, honey. Captain Stone's voice had a hint of amusement. But I'm sure the Space Scout Museum would love to have it as an exhibit. How not to kidnap human children. A lesson in poor life choices. The children high-fived each other as boarding teams from the human ships began arriving. Their first space mission had been a complete success, and they'd all earned several badges and prizes. Ambassador Green stood before a room full of new alien diplomats at the Galactic Council Academy. Behind him, a large screen showed images of the now famous Swift Claw incident. And then, young diplomats, he said, gesturing to the images, is why the Children Protection Act was created. The incident was seen happened just 3 months ago. The screen showed pictures of 6 smiling Space Scouts receiving medals from Earth's government. Next to that was an image of the Swift Claw, now permanently docked at the Space Scout Museum as its most popular exhibit. But they were just children. A young man with crystal balls protested. How did they defeat it? Ambassador Green smiled. That's exactly the mistake Captain Blue Scale made on Earth. Children aren't just smaller versions of adults. They're carefully nurtured, educated, and trained, especially their Space Scouts. He clicked to the next slide, showing Rose's famous friendship bracelet that had rewired an entire ship's communications system. This simple-looking device is now studied in advanced engineering classes across Earth. Made by an 8-year-old using only threads from her uniform, she got her electronics master badge for it. The screen changed to show the Swift Claw's completely reorganized computer systems. And this, a 10-year-old boy reprogrammed it during what he called. It now runs more efficiently than most modern ships. He earned his Computer Excellence badge. In the back of the room, a Blue Scale diplomat raised his hand. But surely this was a special case. Actually, Ambassador Green clicked to another slide. Earth has over 1 million Space Scouts. These 6 were just there are thousands more just like them. The room fell silent as this information sank in. Currently, he continued, Captain Blue Scale and his crew are helping teach Space Scout classes about in space. They're very popular teachers, especially in the small bad guy course. The screen showed Blue Scale looking quite uncomfortable as Rose enthusiastically explained to a class of younger scouts how she had rewired his ship. The children even wrote a new merit badge manual based on their experience. It's called Peaceful Ship Takeover and Safety Procedures. Very comprehensive. Though I'm told the section on control modifications needs some work. A nervous but the real lesson. Ambassador Green's voice grew serious. Isn't about the children's abilities. It's about humanity itself. Every human adult was once a child. Every human remembers learning, growing. They protect their children with a fierceness that no other species can fully understand. He showed the massive fleet of human ships that had assembled to rescue 6 children. Those ships came from all over the sector. Military vessels, cargo ships, private crafts, all responded chess timeout was supposed to be on vacation. It became anyway. The HSS parent-teacher conference was a mission. They dropped everything. Ambassador Green looked around the room, meeting each diplomat's eyes. Remember this, humans will forget many things. Border disputes, trade disagreements, cultural misunderstandings, all can be negotiated. Threatening their children, that they never forget. He flipped his slide, showing the 6 space scouts at their celebration party, still wearing their modified uniforms. These children didn't just escape their captors. They improved the ship's systems, documented everything about Ranger Scout training, and made sure no one got seriously hurt. Then they submitted everything as their big project and earned their advanced space crisis management badges. Ambassador Green smiled at his stunned audience. The pirates thought they were hunters. Instead, they became part of a children's educational exercise. So, if you remember nothing else from today's lesson, remember this. Never, ever mess with human children. You won't just face their parents. You'll face all of humanity. And if those children will be space scouts. He chuckled. Well, you might end up as their next teaching example. In the back of the room, a small screen silently showed the Swift Claw's new museum display. A sign beneath it, donated by the Space Scouts class of 2024. An example of why you should always check who you're trying